Welcome to the Inspiring Marriages Podcast. We are Jeff and Teresa Fields, and the music you heard during our intro was composed and recorded by our son, Joseph Taylor Fields.
Jeff and I have been happily married for 32 years. We have 3 grown children who are serving the Lord. We have a wonderful son in love and a beautiful grandbaby.
As we share our story, our desire is to inspire you to build your friendship and thus build your marriage in all areas, spiritually, emotionally, romantically, and physically.
So we want you to go to our webpage, inspiringmarriages.net, and there you can access all of our previous episodes, including the show notes. Below the episodes, there is a Keep in Touch section, and there you can sign up to receive our latest offerings for free.
As courtship doesn't end, you might be already married, but these are still areas where you need to come into agreement. If you're not in agreement, you need to get into agreement. Now, we defined courtship from Webster's. It's a period where a man and a woman dedicate themselves to learn more about each other and to seek God together to determine if it's God's will for them to get married.
Mm-hmm. That's so important because we quoted this last week from Amos 3:3. Can 2 people walk together without agreeing on the direction? And of course, the answer is no, they
the
can't.
answer is no. If you're not in agreement in these areas, you're not walking together.
That's right.
So I found a quote, God is love, so it makes sense that we have to go through him to find the one that we should marry. So let's take a little pressure off everybody, Lisa. There is not just one. So you don't have to find the one. You become one. You become the one for that special person.
That's right.
You don't have to sit around going, where is he? Where is she? And just wondering where to find the one. Because God will change your hearts and make you one flesh.
That's right. He brings 2 people together that are both seeking him and preparing for one another.
That's right. As you're seeking him, then you become prepared for each other.
That's right.
Really. So courtship and relationship, especially marriage, is really, it is a opportunity for sacrifice, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, and you know what I was thinking about, saying God is bringing people together. We think in our culture, in our time, that we choose the person that we're supposed to marry, but if we're following God, he's the one who chooses the person for you to marry. You just have to get in line with his plan and hear him clearly enough to understand that's what he's doing, is bringing you together with the person he chose for you.
Right. If you're single, or you're single again, or you have children that are starting to date, let us reassure you, you can find a fabulous, wonderful spouse. And I say find, you prepare yourself for that fabulous, wonderful spouse. And when you find them, you'll know. You really will.
Yes, absolutely.
But in this period of time where you're seeking God together, there are areas where you have to come into agreement.
That's right.
You can't just, here we go. Red flag number one.
We got to do these already.
We just came out a little sooner than I expected. A red flag number 1 is saying things will just work out.
Oh, that's so true.
You have to talk about these areas.
Exactly.
You can't assume the other one feels the same way about these things as you do.
Exactly.
Because you have to talk about these. And during the courtship phase is the perfect time to talk about it. And even if you're married now, if you're not in agreement in these areas, you need to get in agreement. Set a time to pray, fast, pray together, and just seek the Lord to come into agreement.
Oh, yes, that's good.
Number 1, agreement. Where are we going to worship? There are some people, and I'm not saying it's wrong, they will never leave the church that they're in.
Right.
And you have to come in agreement. So you can't assume. Either one can't say, well, when we get married, he's going to come to my church. Or when we get married, she's going to come to my church. You got to talk about it.
Yes, you've got to talk about it. And I was thinking about today that a lot of people marry that are from different denominations.
Oh, different faiths even.
Even different faiths, like
Catholics,
Christian and Jewish, or,
right.
They might be Orthodox Christian and like Western Christian, and those have huge differences, even
right.
between denominations. The doctrines vary, and the way that people worship, the expectations of that church, or family life, a lot of things are different from church to church, denomination to denomination.
Right. So
that's a lot to talk about.
It is important to talk about that early,
right,
in your relationship,
mm-hmm.
early in your courtship. And if you're even married, if you're not in agreement in this area, you need to get in agreement.
Yes.
You have to be walking together.
Yes,
especially in the area of faith, right?
It's going to affect your children too, because if you're not agreeing on that, and it's like they're getting pulled from one church to the other, or they see the tension or the disagreement between their parents, they're trying to figure out what is going on. What are we supposed to settle in? How can we decide what's normal? When the parents don't even know which church is the right church.
It is important for you to worship together. It is important for you to serve together in the church, and it's also good for you to worship together in the church. It really is. Now, the way in the areas that we serve, we usually cannot sit together because either Teresa's, if she's serving that week, she's on the platform, but then she sits down. But I'm in the sound booth, usually for the whole service. I do get some Sundays off. I have a great team, and I'm getting more Sundays off because they're doing a really great job. But it's really important to come to this first area of agreement.
That's right.
Where are we going to worship? Now, a second area, Teresa, you want to start us on the second area?
Wow, this is almost as big as where we're going to worship, because I love how we've heard some of the leaders in the faith that we follow. Where you're going to worship should determine where you're going to live. It's not the job that should determine where you're going to live, but where you're supposed to be worshiping. So the second one is, where are we going to live now, like as approaching marriage, and where are we going to live in the future?
Right. So if you got one person who can't wait to get out of Dodge, and the other person says, "I'm never leaving mom and dad."
Right.
I can't leave them. Maybe maybe there's
they might be elderly or
a care. Yeah, they need some care. Or keep this in mind: if one or both have children from a previous marriage, then their options are limited.
Right.
They have to stay in the area where their children are.
Because of visitation, and they want to see the grandparents, and there's so much involved there.
So you need to have your eyes open when you enter a relationship with someone with prior children, and it's not a bad thing. You just have to come into agreement.
Right.
We're going to live in this area.
Exactly.
At least until the children are grown. And so
that's right. That's right.
And once they're grown, they may move off anyway to school or something. So, but as they're growing up, it's really important for the other spouse, the parent of those children, to have contact with those children and relationship with those children. It's so important.
Yes, that's so important.
Now, this is something that really needs to be talked about during courtship. Kids. Are we going to have kids? There are some people who just want a boatload of kids, and there's some people who don't want any kids.
That's true. That's true.
So you got to talk about it. If they happen, they happen. No, you guys need to talk about these kids. You have
to talk about it. Exactly.
Because you don't want resentment building up. What if, Teresa, tell me, explain this to me, or help me understand. What if one doesn't want children, but then the wife conceives?
Wow.
Is there a feeling of resentment?
Probably.
Can that happen?
Some people feel trapped. That, like, I didn't want to have to deal with children. I didn't want that responsibility. They're going to feel trapped instead of enjoying that blessing in the family.
What a blessing they are.
And that's very sad, but that's, another thing, like a tool of the enemy to drive a wedge into a marriage. So that has to be talked about beforehand, because if they, are expecting, but one person held back and didn't say, I didn't really want to have kids before they got married, then, how can they change that now?
Right.
That
it's important. When you walk in agreement, if you can't get an agreement on this subject, it's a deal breaker.
Right. That could be a deal breaker. Yeah. Because if I had said, I don't want any children, and you were thinking 4 or 5, what was the number you gave me? We started talking about these things, and I was thinking 1 or 2. I didn't really think of big family, like my parents both wanted a big family, but I was thinking small number, But we had to talk about that.
We had to talk about
because that could feel like pressure on the other person.
Right.
Like, well, I wanted more children, and and that just, it makes it so unhappy instead of being such a blessing to plan for children or be surprised that God blessed you with another baby, and neither one is going to have problem with that or feel like, oh, now there's so much stress, I got to get a better paying job or something like that. It can just have so many repercussions if you're not walking together in agreement in this.
Right. And if you're going to have kids, how many kids? And just, you can have a general idea. You can say 1 or 2, or the other one may say, 5. But you need to come into agreement.
And keep talking about it.
And keep talking about it.
Yes, keep talking about it.
Health and your age and everything is a factor. And you may be the age where you're single again, and you're not going to have children. This is not
right.
Not
you
a
might
factor.
have already had children, and now you don't want to start a family all over again.
Right.
If you're in your 50s or 60s, it happens. Right.
So, and also, once you decide if you're going to have kids, what kind of education are you going to give them? Is it going to be public, private, homeschool? Now, there are some godly teachers in public school.
That's right.
There are some godly teachers in public school. So we're not anti-public school.
So thankful for that.
But there's also private school and homeschool. We chose to do homeschool. Actually, it was really Teresa. And I would come and help with geometry and math and physics and stuff. But it was really Teresa doing the lesson plans day after day and juggling that. And she had 2 together. They were 2 years apart. And then later on, Abigail started school after they were kind of doing school on their own. Time she started school.
She couldn't hardly wait, though.
Yeah.
But we didn't even know about homeschooling when we were going through this courtship phase. I don't think anybody really had a clue that was going to be a huge movement, for parents to have kids at home and teach them themselves. I hadn't even heard of it until Joseph was a young child. Right.
And this is really an area you need to be in agreement on, because you might have once, oh yeah, we're going to homeschool, we're going to do everything, we're going to make our own soap and so forth.
Right.
And then we're like, whoa, I don't think I can handle it. And it can be man or woman, right? So and so you have to come in agreement on this. And of course, if you choose private, then there's the financial aspects of that. You have to come in agreement of that. And so it's another area that you have to come into agreement with.
Oh, yes, that's so good. I agree. Yes, so now this is something we definitely talked about, and I'm so glad that we did, because I knew that if I was going to be a mother one day, I didn't want to be a working mother. I saw my mom raise us by staying at home, and that was so valuable to me, that she definitely devoted herself to raising us. And of course, we went to public school, but she was always home when we came home from school. She was always there if we needed something. She'd fix us dinner every night. She wasn't trying to be super mom, working mom, because she knew she wanted a large family. So, will both of you keep working after you're married? Or will you both keep working before you're married? Is that going to change after children? So for me, I knew before we got married, if children are, what we're talking about, and we're not trying to wait 5 years or anything like that, then I need to be home, because that was my model, and I thought that was very special. And like I said, I hadn't even heard of homeschooling, so I didn't even know I was going to be doing that at the time. So, that really was important to me, to be home.
Now, a factor of that is debt. Mm-hmm. This is, for instance, let's just say, for instance, that the female has a large amount of debt. Maybe she has $120,000 in student loans, and she wants to quit day one of the marriage and be a homemaker.
Oh boy!
That puts a lot of pressure on the other person. Like, okay,
right?
No, I'm okay, but now I have to absorb $120,000 of debt,
right?
And there's no benefit. I mean, she's not going to use the degree that she earned. She earned a degree, but she's not going to use it,
right? In
that to make money. There's no higher calling than being a homemaker and a mom.
Right.
But you got to talk about that. So you may have to come into an agreement that, okay, you'll keep working and we'll put 100% of your salary towards your debt.
Right. That would be a great plan. Or work from home. If you didn't want to go out and get a career type job, work from home and use those finances to pay off that debt.
Right.
Right, because you wouldn't want to get married and the husband be off working 2 jobs to pay off debt and just take care of the family's needs, and just so the wife could be at home. I mean, that just seems really out of balance, doesn't it?
Right, and it's okay. And the same thing. I mean, if the male had a lot of student loan debt, and he kind of depended upon the wife's salary to help pay that, You gotta expose that.
Yes.
And talk about that. And I've heard of counseling sessions where the husband, the male, of course you're going to keep working. We need your money, and so it's just it can be a deal breaker. So that's why you have. This is an area that you have to be in agreement on. For a successful marriage and a peaceful marriage, you have to be in agreement. And you can't say, it'll just work itself out.
Oh, I need my flag.
It'll just work itself out. God will provide.
Exactly.
God will provide. It'll work itself out.
Right. That's not faith. It's presumption.
That's presumption. Right? So that's really why when you're single, to get a handle on the debt.
Oh yes.
Get rid of the debt while you're single. Right. Now this is something. Good. This is really not an area of agreement, but it's an area where you can come into agreement.
Right.
You need to be able to show each other your written, and I said it, written visions, goals, and your dreams. How can you know? How can you follow? How can you walk together somewhere if you don't know where you're going? Right. Exactly. So it needs to be written down. Right, Teresa?
Yeah, that makes each person get some clarity in their own life before you're trying to put your life together with the other person. I mean, if you don't even know what your vision is, what God has called you to do, or where your career path is supposed to be going, and you want to get married, well, that other person is going to be trying to be, following that vision, but they don't know what it is. And if your family starts growing, then you don't know if you're going to be taking your whole family in the right direction, or you're going to be able to provide for your family. I really like that, especially sharing the dreams. I think I shared some things with you about what I was desiring at the time. When I was in my 20s, we'd known some people in our singles group that were like Christian counselors, and I kind of had that in my heart. I was thinking, wow, I'd really love to be a Christian counselor. I think that's so neat. But I knew God had called me to worship ministry, so it was kind of like I saw things that I admired, and I thought, well, maybe that's what God wants me to do. And I knew I wanted to help people. That's always been my heart, because I'm a very sympathetic, empathic kind of person where I feel people's pain, and if they're going through something, I just immediately almost hurt with them. So that was something that I thought was what I was going to do. But the Lord was having to refine me so that I could tell you, I love worship ministry, and I love singing and ministering in the church, and that was what I'd been doing for over 10 years. Well, actually, since I was 14, ministering in church by singing. By the time, we were actually talking about these things, that was very much a part of my life.
Yeah, so it's important to share them so that the other person can think about, can I support that dream?
Right.
Or come up with ideas how to support that dream, how to support that vision. Christy Milan Lefevre wrote a book, The Honeymoon is Over, Now What? Now this is page 10. She said, just because a couple has been married a long time doesn't mean they have holy matrimony. Mm-hmm. They may share in paying the bills or raising the kids, but they are not committed to building each other's God-ordained hopes and dreams.
Wow.
So part of marriage is I'm committed to helping Teresa realize her dreams, her visions, and her goals. And Teresa's committed to help me fulfill my dreams, ambitions, and goals. Right. So let's go on to some other red flags.
So good.
So love should not be blind, Teresa.
Right.
If there's these red flags are showing up in your relationship, now you might be married, you might be single, you might be single again, or you might have children who are dating.
Right.
Another red flag is
I'll be ready.
overreaction to one of the areas agreements above, a soulless reaction.
Oh, yes.
So if you're sharing something, if you guys are talking about one of these areas agreement and the other person just overreacts,
right,
that is a red flag.
Mm-hmm. Could be they get hurt, or they get angry, or hey, that's not how my family does things, or whatever. Can you imagine already being married and having that kind of friction and difference of opinion on something? That would be hurtful, very hurtful. So that's a definite red flag.
The third red flag this week is a controller. You can't be yourself.
Right.
They discount your feelings, discount your dreams, discount your ambitions.
Yes.
Your goals and your visions. Mm-hmm. They discount them. That's silly.
Oh,
that's a red flag.
Right.
Or she's just being emotional, or he's just being, he's just dull,
Well, to me, when that happened in some relationships, maybe not everyone, but probably more than the other way, more than not. If a person reacted that way to my ministering or my desires and my walk with the Lord, then I realized this person is not only not compatible, they're either a baby Christian or they're not a Christian at all. That's a huge red flag to me, because I was serious about my walk with the Lord all the way through my single adult life before God even brought Jeff and me together. And if somebody could not understand where I was going with the Lord, then, hey, red flag. I needed to wake up and end the relationship, or say, hey, I don't think this is going to work. You see things differently about your walk with God or your Christianity than I do. And I don't know if I was bold enough to say it in those words at that time, because I still needed to grow in a lot of things. But it really concerned me if I saw that huge difference, like you said, that control in the relationship. If they thought my feelings were ridiculous, like, oh, I don't know what you're upset about. Well, then, hey, you don't care about my feelings. Romance or not, if you don't care about my feelings, I'm a person. You have to care about the other person's feelings and what's important to them.
Let me help you out, guys. A woman is more in touch with her feelings, and she's able to express her feelings a lot more than, and this is general, a lot more than some men do. Most men do, probably. But her emotions are valid. Mm-hmm. They're real. And just because she can express them easier than you doesn't make any difference.
Right.
They're real, and they're a part of her.
They're very real.
They're real. It's expression of her heart. And women in general can express their heart easier. They're more emotionally open than men are in general.
And women just have like an intuition about things. I mean, men can too, but more likely women will have an intuition that something's not right, or, just something's off. I don't know how to explain it, but if someone discounts that when you're trying to say something is not right, whether it's something that's going on where you're going to church or trying to date and go to the same church or whatever, if you're just saying something is not right and they don't listen, it's not just being emotional, it's because you're sensing something that they would not necessarily be sensitive to. Right. That's the way we're made. Women are made like that.
Amen. So this week we're going to continue our story, and so last week we talked about how our courtship began and how the Lord was revealing to each of us the other person. And so the next day, on Monday, I called Teresa, and as I'd done many other times, set up a time for dinner, or try to set up a time for dinner. All of the times have been unromantic, but this was different. So I think I called you on Monday. I think you had something planned with your girlfriend Bonnie that Monday night. I think Tuesday night may have been prison ministry for me. Wednesday night was something else. So Thursday night we agreed to, hey, let's just get together, because she had shared some things Saturday with me from her heart about things that she was going through, and I wanted to spend some time with her to be a friend to her. And so, tell me, do you remember anything about that period?
What I was thinking about, trying to remember this 32 years later, was that after God showed me all the revelation of the years of our relationship, and that I realized I could trust you, not just trust you as a friend or maybe trust you as a boyfriend, but I could trust you with my life. Like my life, if my life was on the line, I knew I could trust you to be there for me. I mean, it was a really deep knowing, like when you just know something and nobody can talk you out of it. It was like that. So, but of course, I was just going to ponder all these things in my heart. I wasn't expecting just something immediate to happen.
She was like Mary. She pondered things in her heart.
I was just pondering, okay, Lord, because, we had conditioned ourselves so much not to leap ahead or try to jump into something that we weren't ready for, and we were not trying to make this relationship into something. We were not steering the boat, neither one of us. We just wanted to see what God was doing. So, I was just thinking getting together as friends like we usually did.
Now, Teresa, you and I had been to many restaurants together, mostly like Olive Garden or something like that. Nothing
steakhouse buffet kind of place,
or Taco Bell, and nothing earth shattering.
Right.
But my friend David Wilcher, Pastor David Wilcher now, he was a co-worker at that time in Georgia. He said, "No, take her to an Italian restaurant called Naples." We thought it was called Naples, but actually Napoli's. But Naples, they're a mom and pop restaurant there on Vineville Avenue in Macon. So apparently I think I called and got reservations. And then I think I told you about it so that you could be prepared or dressed up for it.
Right.
But you wear something different to Napoli's than you would do Olive Garden.
Right. It's not as
we liked Olive Garden at the time. We don't hardly ever go there. We found a lot of mom and pop Italian places we go to. So,
that's right.
What would you have thought about me taking it to Napoli's instead of Ryan's Steakhouse?
Well, like I said, I wasn't going to try to assume anything, but I thought it sounded special. It sounded really nice, so I did want to dress up, of course.
And she dressed up.
Exactly. Yeah. And of course, I love Italian. So
Yeah,
I
she's Italian.
think I told you I always wanted to go to that place.
Okay. She wore a black dress. It had little flowers on it. I remember.
That's right.
Yeah. So I think he came into, we were going to meet in my house. But before that, David said, this is that Thursday. He said, send her some roses. Like, what? This is, now I've given her presents for a birthday before. I don't, maybe, a flower bouquet or something, but not roses.
Right,
so
right.
I ordered a dozen red roses and had them sent to her office and waited. So this could have gone in a variety of ways. It could have gone really badly. Like, how dare you? What are you thinking? Why did you assume that you could send these to me? And the other end could be happiness.
Right.
So I had to wait for the phone call. So tell me what happened at work.
I was away from my desk and went to visit someone else down the hall or somewhere else in the building, because we usually would carry pieces of work from place to place and work kind of whatever project we were on. We'd go through a process through different offices. So I was out seeing somebody in the building and was away from my desk. So when I came back, I came around the corner. My cubicle's like at the end of a row. So I come around the front of the row and turn into my cubicle, and I see this huge bouquet of 12 red roses on my desk. So I just...
And red is the color of romance. Guys.
So I'm just kind of shocked, kind of jumped back, and one of my coworkers came around the corner. He's like, oh, I think he must have heard me exclaim something. And he says, oh, so I see you found them. And I'm, oh, yeah. And he said, well, who are they from? He was all curious. And I looked at the card, and I think it just had your name.
Okay.
It just said, from Jeff. So I was, I guess I was blushing and everything, just thinking, oh, my goodness. I think it was like it got really warm in there all of a sudden. I wasn't used to this, like a romantic gesture from Jeff, because like you said, if they were flowers, I knew it was something he did for other ladies that he knew, just brother to sister, just being thoughtful and sending flowers for a birthday or something. But I knew this was different. So, yeah, it kind of got me thinking, but still trying not to expect any certain way for things to happen, in the dinner later that evening. So, yeah, that was a fun surprise. Yay!
Thank you, David. Pastor
Yes.
David Wiltshire, forever in your debt.
Absolutely.
Now, you came to my house, and we rode together to Macon. It's about 30 minutes to where the restaurant was, 30 to 40 minutes. And I gave you a present. So, here, guys, give your lady presents. So I gave you a CD of acoustic guitar music, because I know you were a guitar player. So I purposely found a present that I thought that you would like.
Yes.
It was by Phil Keaggy. Still
Really
a fabulous
excellent.
guitar. He's one of the most fabulous guitar players in the world. And I think it was the black and white one about nature. And I gave that to you.
It's really beautiful.
And back then you had cassette players in the car. You could listen to it. I think we put it into the cassette player. I think we were able to listen to it.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So we got to the restaurant, and we had reservations, and I think they made everything from scratch. It was just fabulous.
Yes,
And,
yes,
and we had
really good.
bread, and we had salad,
And
we
the crab soup.
To this day, it must have been the occasion, because we have
Must have
never
been.
tasted crab soup as good as that was.
It was amazing. I don't think I'd even had crab soup before, and it was just like, this is our favorite thing from now on. Well, we haven't found anywhere.
We even tried crab
someplace
soup
that has-
on a cruise, and our cruise, and it wasn't the same.
It wasn't the same. Exactly.
But during this date, we had conversation. We had meaningful conversation.
Right.
And I think I tried to explain to you, Teresa, how men generally compartmentalize things, and it's sometimes it's really hard to share deep feelings and thoughts to someone else. Like, men in general are emotionally modest, physically open. Women in general are emotionally open and physically modest. So I was shaking.
Yeah, his hand. He's like, I'm steady as a rock, but his hand was shaking.
I was very nervous, and
he was nervous,
and I was pretty sure where the relationship was going. But I think I do remember I'm purposely telling you that I was committed to you, and I was committed to this relationship and seeing where God was going to lead it. I didn't want to assume,
right?
Even though the Lord said He hid me, He hid you for me. You know, the Lord had to reveal that to you. You know,
right. You weren't going to try to convince me.
How many men have told you in the past?
Oh, wait. God told me
we're going to get married.
To marry you. But if God didn't tell me, then I knew that wasn't God, because He tells both people, even if it's not at the same time, but He does tell both people.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
So you knew not to put any pressure on me in that regard.
Yeah. I wasn't going to propose that first night. Maybe I should have. It'd been a record. But I was just smitten. I was smitten. I really was.
So sweet.
You know, once the Lord revealed you to me, that's nothing else in my eyes except for you. So it was. So, but we had a wonderful conversation.
We did,
and we talked, you know, and meaningful things. We didn't just talk about the weather or politics or anything like that. We were talking about serious things of the heart.
That's right.
Heart-to-heart talking at Napoli's. And then we had to go back to my house.
Right.
So actually the restaurant was close to where she was living, but we went back 30 or 40 minutes to my house.
That's right.
To get her, so she can get her car to go home. But I did something that night that I really felt led of the Lord to do this. And you have to be really, whatever you do in your dating, in your courtship, be led of the Lord.
Right.
But I asked,
don't just try to impress the other person like, something super spiritual.
I asked Teresa to remove her stockings, and I washed her feet.
You washed my feet.
As a commitment that I was going to serve her.
Yes. I was just, overwhelmed, I guess, is the only thing I could say about that. Just overwhelmed, and just it ministered to me deeply, because like saying you're committed to see where the relationship's going and then committing to serve me. I mean, in the same way that Jesus was teaching His disciples to serve one another and serve others.
Well, no man can lead.
So powerful.
He can't lead a wife unless he's willing to serve 100% his wife.
Exactly.
Really. And guys, you know, you want your wife to follow you, or are you serving her?
Right.
And that's, you know, that applies courtship, engagement, marriage. That all applies. You have to be serving the other person 100%.
That's right.
Even if she never agreed to marry me. You know, that was no guarantee.
Right. Wow.
I was going to serve you. So that was our first date. That was pretty powerful day.
It was very powerful.
It was a Thursday. It wasn't even a Friday night date. It was a Thursday night date.
Thursday night.
You can listen to our audio podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon. And please leave us a review. It helps us. You can even watch this podcast on YouTube. Search for the Inspiring Marriages channel. You can even listen to our podcast using your smart devices. Just say, Alexa, play the Inspiring Marriages podcast.
That's right.
It'll come up. Even works on my car. Our friendship builder this week is a fun one.
It is a fun one.
It is over a weekend binge a favorite TV show, movie series that you both love, and just, if it's a comedy, just laugh and laugh and laugh. If it's something romantic, make up make up a kissing game. Have your favorite dessert. Cuddle. Just have a nice time on the couch. Just binging something that you both like.
Don't forget about the children.
Don't forget about the children. But just have fun. Just have fun.
Oh, yes. We enjoy that, for sure.
And what's some of the favorite things you like to binge?
Well, definitely the Pride and Prejudice series by Jane Austen.
The Girl Likes Jane Austen.
The Emma series. They all have different numbers of episodes. But yeah, anything Jane Austen.
And we also like comedies like Jerry Lewis, and we watch those Jerry Lewis movies, or we watch Star Trek or Star Wars, and just any kind of. Right now, we're liking All Creatures Great and Small.
Oh yes,
the recent masterpiece series that just finished 3 seasons.
I think they're starting season 5.
Okay, so they finished 4 seasons, you think? And so we like to watch those shows, and we're going back and we've only seen like two seasons. 2 seasons. We're going back and watching the first season together, and just enjoying it. Just
oh yes.
And it could be Doctor Who. It could be a shoot 'em up. It could be all the Mission Impossible movies. It could just be anything that you like together. You find an old TV series that you like growing up, Lost in Space, or anything, just something that you like together. Or something it's like fun. In the 80s you grew up with that you want to just watch it and see how well it holds up. Normally it doesn't, but
right.
But have fun. So that marriage friendship builder this week is just have fun.
That's right. That's right.
Now you can connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Please like, follow, or subscribe. You can also connect with us via email at inspiringmarriages@att.net. You can leave questions and suggestions on how to make this podcast better and what topics you would like us to explore.
Yes, absolutely.
So until next time,
husband and wife are friends for life.